I don't know if you know this, but you're like the only woman here that I have on stage this
Seriously?
year. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. The others did not say yes. We want to do this. So good for you. Kudos. So yeah, I need to start with the questions about women in VC, right? Because you're also part of the association, European Women in VC. So tell me a bit about being a member of that. Let's just start with that one. And also being a woman in VC, also being managing partner and partner, because there are lots of women in VC, but maybe they are doing, or like they are more into the operational side.
Sure. So we're actually a founding member of EU Women in VC. We started with Kinga way back, I think it was 2-3 years ago. And we did a study, that was the initial kind of step. What we wanted to do is we did a study on all of Europe to see how many women there are in decision-making positions throughout Europe. And I know the Scandinavian market is where the most women are. But also, I think in Bulgaria, we have quite a few funds with female GPs. In our fund, there are 6 people. We have 2 female GPs and a third woman, so we're exactly 50-50, and 2/3 of the decision makers are women. I feel that in Bulgaria, at least, there are a lot of females in top positions, not only in VC, but also in technology companies. In the big banks, there are actually 4 out of 5 of the big banks are led by women. So I never really felt that in Bulgaria. I didn't feel any separation or any glass ceilings or anything like that. But I know that's not the case in other parts of the world, especially in the US, where I also lived for 15 years. It's much harder to become a partner in banks, in private equity, VC, and all that. I feel that we're privileged coming from our part of the world, but there's still not that many. I know the study that EU Women in VC published, I think only 10% of female GPs. There are 10% only of female GPs overall, and only I think 2% of the funding goes to female founders. That were the findings of that first report. It's improved over time, but compared to where we want to be, you know, there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, I think that we're good at underline because we're like more women than men there. So I don't know what Bogdan did, but we did not think about this. We actually need to hire more men.
Yeah. It's good to be a diverse team. Like one direction is not better than the other. You know, it has to be equal.
Yeah, but should you be intentional about this in hiring in VC or like investing in companies, or just you just invest in like the best companies and they seem to also have a female co-founder, because we are more thinking about this, not trying to run after diversity quotas.
Yeah, we also don't look at founding teams based on the gender. We try to look at teams based on their merit, but I have to say that we try to be aware of the different pitching approaches and the different thinking that females and males have. For example, female founders are a bit more cautious and they protect the downside more, while male founders talk about the vision and their plans and their excitement. And so I think that's why I think it's good to have both, because they cover the whole spectrum, right? And if you're aware that women are a bit more conservative, shall I say, and a bit more cautious, but at the same time doesn't mean they're bad founders, they're just thinking about all angles of a business. If you have that in mind, then you know you can compare them to their other male counterparts in a more comparable way, and not say, you know, they're not thinking about the vision as much. They just have a different way of approaching problems. We're not set on quotas, but we find that we have, as you said, a lot of female founders. We also have CTOs that are female. And I think it's also a natural kind of magnet for female founders to come to funds when they're females, because they just talk a different language. And some of the products are femtech products, for example, like that cannot be sold, you know, to male investors that don't really understand the problems.
The Flow founders might beg to differ.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean about being a female and understanding their product better.
Yeah, I mean, we just invested in a company that is led by a female founder for longevity, and one of their use cases is menopause. Like, I mean, how do you talk to a male? Maybe they know because of their wives, you know, at some point they go into menopause and they're on the receiving end, but, you know, the symptoms only women can experience. So I think that's something good to have, like a diversity of team members that can know about the problems that the founders are solving.
Is the West is bound to learn more from the East in this regard of like breaking the glass ceiling in VC? Because we in Eastern Europe, of course, we have this technical background. We're like into polytechnic. I also come like from doing mathematics, informatics, starting 10 years old, right? Maybe we as women in Eastern, we think differently about this technological part than in the West. Do you think that this is like an advantage that we should talk more about, or like pray on it, or like how do you see it? Like what they can learn from us?
Yeah, I think that's I think the purpose of EU Women in VC as well, to talk more about the different regions and which regions are ahead than others and give them as examples. I think maybe not the East is probably not the best example, but the Nordics are probably the best example because they have the most female investors. But the East is also a good second, I think, and for sure we should talk about it. I think we have this historical kind of advantage that during communism, you know, everybody worked, so females and males, and the separation was not based on gender, but based on merit, and that kind of stayed afterwards. And our nations are very technical as well, so there are women in STEM and math and computer science, and that's definitely an advantage that we have and we talk about.
Sure. Now that we've covered all things female and women in VC and women in startups and everything else, I think that we should also go to some portfolio questions. So, of course, I've read about like what you invest in, like being agnostic and everything else. What are you seeing? Like, are you riding hypes or trends, or are you just like watching for outliers and trying to be there for them and convince them to take your check?
No, we don't look for fads. I think there's some funds that basically ride the wave as much as they can. They're mostly based in the US or Asia. We try to focus on companies that have defensible tech and that have a global vision. So they want to become leaders in what they do. AI, I think, is a horizontal theme that is going to be ingrained in every single product and company out there. So that's not really a topic because it's becoming the status quo in a way. We invested in AI-powered companies in the first fund before it was a big buzz, just because we saw an opportunity there. So yeah, we look for good opportunities, not following any trends. We're sector agnostic, but we actually focus on 3 main verticals. So future of work, which is actually more of a horizontal theme. It's like any automation, digitalization, workflow process improvement, fintech, and health tech. These are the 3 main focus areas, but we also are open to any opportunities anywhere else. If we see a good founder team, good market, good potential, then we consider them. But we want them to have the global vision from day one. So that's probably why we look actually more at diaspora founders and helping them bring their teams to our region rather than exporting from our region to the US.
And now you just send me the ball with this one. Beyond Capital, how you are supporting the founders in your portfolio?
Yeah, so maybe start from the types of founders that we look for. As I said, you know, we try to find diaspora founders. We have 29 portfolio companies in both of our funds. In the first fund, we have 22, 8 of which are based in the US. So we have 10 in Europe, 4 in the UK. 21 of those companies have R&D centers in Bulgaria. With the second fund, which we launched last year, we have 7 companies, 5 of which are based in the US, 1 in the UK, and 1 in Europe. So first, to start with, we try to tap into our network to source those deals. So we try to find those founders that other funds don't have access to, that are based abroad and have those networks themselves already built. Then we use our networks, which, by the way, is built of our LPs as well. We have about 50 plus LPs, most of which are tech founders themselves. So they are high executives in large tech companies and know the ecosystem very well. And we also have a network of advisors that we tap into. So we use this big network to validate products in industries that we may not be experts in.
So you are using the advisors and the LPs to sort of like vet the founders before writing the check?
Sometimes, yeah, if it's a market that we don't know well, we tap into that network. Those actually investors and advisors can not only validate, but they can become their first customers. So we provide that to the founders as well as a lead to a customer. Some of those actually become mentors after that. Some of them decide to invest an additional amount in those companies if it's in the sphere that they're working on. And on top of that, we have networks, as I said. We've all lived and worked abroad. I lived in the US for 15 years. My partner, Diana, also for 10 years. Our third partner traveled around. He sold two of his previous startups, one to VMware and one to Honeywell Aerospace. We have a couple of other members that come from London, have studied and worked there. So we have a lot of a big international network, and that network helps us, again, not only for validation and additional investments, but also to connect us to potential customers, later on for fundraising. So we have 4 exits to US strategic buyers in the first fund. We've taken an active role in negotiating the exits. We've even put them in touch with some of those acquirers. We help them structure their deals in fundraising rounds. We put them in touch with funds that we've worked with before. We always try to co-invest with local funds, so we have a large a database of over like 600 funds now that we've co-invested with some of them, and we share pipeline, so we help them with fundraising. And most importantly, we help them with talent recruitment. So if they want to build an R&D center in Bulgaria, for example, we basically know the ecosystem and the engineers, and we know which people will be good fits. But also in the States, we've helped them look for CFOs, CMOs, high position. So we tap into our networks. The VMware network is a big source of opportunities for us because both of my partners work there. The Stanford community, a third of the Stanford graduating class is, founders, and a third is investors. So, we have a very good kind of channel to those people as well.
Let's go back to building R&D centers in Eastern Europe and how you do that. Can you probably share some specific steps or something so that the others can say okay, this is sort of like a playbook of how you can do this in Eastern Europe. Also for companies from the West to know about this.
Sure. So we started initially with companies that would have one Bulgarian founder. And typically that Bulgarian founder was the tech person. And so those people already know about the talent in Bulgaria. Most of them already had a few people helping them out, but they were living abroad, so they didn't know everybody there. So what we help them do is put them in touch with people for the different, they would send us a job description. We would go through our database of people that we know. We'll recommend some people. In some cases, we put them in touch with specialized headhunting agencies that focus only on specific jobs or specific industries. And, we help them build teams. One of our largest investments in Fund 1, they have an R&D center. They're based in the US. They have an R&D center of about 100 plus people in Bulgaria. And they're servicing large media and entertainment companies like Spotify, Netflix, a bunch of other Paramount broadcasters and all that. And the whole product is developed in Bulgaria. This is the initial step. Then we started actually looking at companies that had nothing to do with Bulgaria. We had a Spanish company, for example, that was founded by a Belgian woman and a woman from Honduras living in Madrid. And so we invested in them and said, you know, you should consider moving to Bulgaria because we have great talent. We put them in touch with some people, they built the team, then they got acquired, extended the team, and you know, we helped them in that process. A third of our companies, actually, it was a UK-based, but again, a Bulgarian founder. They were acquired by a Vista-owned portfolio company, QuickBase. They expanded their team in Bulgaria because they saw the talent, and I think they have over 50 or 60 engineers already there. So yeah, it's a way to import companies rather than export, and it's much easier because the talent is there, while the sales and business development, you know, is in the U.S. You know, they're better at that, and we should just take advantage of what we have.
Sure, and because we were talking about talent, you probably know about the initiative Not Optional. How is it with SOP, with stock options in Bulgaria? Are they regulated, or how do you get this around? I think it will be interesting for our audience to find more about what it's like in Bulgaria.
That's a very good question. It wasn't regulated until recently. There was no way to give stock options and ESOP. So what founders did is they would just put aside some shares under their name, for example, and commit to some people, which was quite a mess. But recently, about a year and a half ago, a new entity was put together, and a law was passed. So this entity has a way to increase the capital without having to go through all the paperwork and going in the trade registry. So, you know, this is something that is still to be adopted by many of the startups, but it's a much easier way to give options without having to go through all the paperwork. So this is what, you know, our organization, we have an organization that deals with legal frameworks and passing laws and pushing for laws, and they've accomplished that in the last couple of years, and this is something that we hope is going to take off soon.
And not the last question, but the second last question. Will 28th regime will happen in our lifetime as VCs?
Which regime?
28th, EU incorporation.
I don't know what this means.
Andreas Klinger's petition on having 28 regimes by Brussels, to have like in Silicon Valley, to have an entity, an European entity where all the startups can register, like the Delaware.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, so I can't comment.
Okay, then we can go to the next question. And because you were talking earlier about R&D, how is, if you know this, but you probably know this, in Western Europe, people don't seem to be that much into convincing people to actually get into startups. Like, the hiring goes faster, people know about startups, people are used to that and everything else. How is it here in Eastern Europe? And if you have like a funny story about this, please share. Like, how hard is it to actually get someone from outsourcing or from doing services into building products at a startup?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, when I came back to Bulgaria 15 years ago from living abroad, that's what we saw. We saw the outsourcing shops, you know, working for big companies and basically like doing what they were told to do. Then there were the copycats that would see something in the Western Europe or the US and copy it cheaply and sell it in the local markets. But recently we see these product development companies that actually focus not only on services but products themselves. And in the last 4 or 5 years, what we're starting to see is actually category-defining product companies. So we have a couple of those in our portfolio that basically have developed something so innovative that they're setting the trend in a specific category. So I think it's moved from, you know, in the last 15 years from outsourcing to category-defining. Back when I came back, it was kind of a dirty word to say you're an entrepreneur. It basically meant that you're unemployed and trying to figure out what to do with your life. But we actually see now a lot of young people wanting to be entrepreneurs. It's gone a bit to the other extreme. They don't really know what they want to do and what problem they want to solve, but they just want to be in this market because they've seen all these success stories out there from our region, and they say, I want to have a try at this. And I think it's sexy and it's exciting and it's new, and they're a bit more risk takers. So I think it's a trend that's happening now that we see.
Thank you. I think that we end on an optimistic note with that one.